Hey everybody, and welcome to Twin Talk, a video discussion show where twin brothers Chris and Kevin drink and draw while talking about comic books, movies, and all things pop culture. We are your hosts, Chris Hart,
Kevin Hart.
and today we're going to be talking about Marvel Studios' Eternals.
Stick around to the end of the episode to see how our drawing of IKARIS came out. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel for more content.
Before we get into this review, cheers.
Cheers. Bottoms up.
We're going to need it. We're going to need it. Lowest rated MCU movie of all time, even beneath Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, I would actually rather watch that. This movie's pretty rough. Directed by Chloe Zhao, a Jack Kirby creation, which is what was the only thing that I knew going in and the only thing that really excited me. I was not blown away at all by this film. Everything was a major letdown, and it is definitely deserving of the title of the lowest MCU film.
We knew nothing about the characters, to be honest. Gorgeous artwork, but the characters we never really felt attached to.
Yeah.
So we never got into it. But this came out around the time when like Jack Kirby was getting into that like really sci-fi aspect. So, I mean, he's the king, obviously. Stan Lee has obviously been blessed with his Marvel Studios movies, his cameos. Everybody knows Stan the man. He's a household name. I was really hoping to see Jack King Kirby get his like proper due with this film because this is like pretty much entirely his creation.
His baby, yeah.
So going into this, that's all I knew. That's all I wanted to see. Based on the trailers, it didn't feel like that was going to be the vibe to me. But I was hoping that when I got to the theater, that's what I would get. And unfortunately, like you said, it's a major letdown to me. The one good thing I could say is the theater was packed tonight. It's good to see people getting back into a theater and a crowded atmosphere.
That was nice, yeah.
People reacting all at the same time. Hearing everybody crunching on the popcorn. People telling each other, shut up. You know, the phone's going off. God, I didn't miss that at all, but I'm glad it's back.
Yeah. The theater was definitely a buzz. Everyone, the entire movie, everyone was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah.
Like all the after post-credit scenes, everyone was just scratching their heads, like, "I have no clue what this means." But
towards the end of the movie, there's the people in front of us were literally just like.
Yeah.
One dude fell asleep and then he woke up and he had no idea what was going on.
Guaranteed he had a better time than all of us watching the actual film. Because this movie's 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely felt it.
Oh my God, it felt so much longer.
Yeah.
I was very optimistic. Open slate. I was like, all right, cool. You know, Shang-Chi kind of blew me away. And that was another very unfamiliar character. So I was hoping Marvel would do the same thing here, and they just absolutely did not, especially with all the hype that Kevin Feige was giving it with the press. But there was really not much press for this movie, not many trailers.
There was like one trailer.
Reactions and hype and everything. And it was just like, nothing about it looks spectacular to me. Because I'm not at all psyched for what this movie did, for what it sets up. I have no interest, and it's just very disappointing to me.
There's two end credits scenes, a mid credits and an end credits, and both of them, like, I wanted to be more excited.
I wanted to know what was happening.
Yeah, I want to know what's happening, but also, like, I just feel like we're really, like, at the D-list level here. You know,
yeah,
like,
this is pretty deep cut.
Like, there's all this stuff that Phase 4 is, like, losing everybody.
Yeah.
It really hasn't been as hot and consistent as all the other, you know, previous Avengers films in Phase 1.
All the television shows have been kind of disappointing.
They're kind of losing the bandwagon here. We're starting to fall off quality, especially since like the marketing for this was from Academy Award winning Chloe Zhao. Like this was going to be, you know, an Oscar winning director taking on a Marvel franchise film. I really didn't feel like it was anything special at all, especially since, like we were saying, Jack Kirby's, you know, baby. I was really hoping they'd lean into that, especially with the costumes.
Oh my God!
I was super let down by the costume designs.
So boring.
Jack Kirby, being in the of his time, was so ahead of his time with the science fiction and the art and everything, and his costumes. If you just, especially since we're going full bore with that anyway at the MCU, give these Eternals amazing costumes. Yeah, like all those crazy designs that he does, all those little different shapes and very sci-fi aspects of the 60s that he was doing.
There was two things I was hoping from this movie. One, again, give credit to Jack the King Kirby. I wanted to see, because it's basically like his version of Superman, IKARIS, right? Like that's one thing that I kind of know is that like he's kind of like their leader and like the poster boy. So I wanted to see that because he looked cool with the whole like heat vision and you know I'm a sucker for Superman. So, and then the second thing I wanted to see.
There's actually literally a scene in this movie where they call him Superman.
They call him at the DC universe. There's a lot of continuity happening. But I also wanted to see with the Celestials, Galactus being set up, and
that is what I was waiting for.
I could have swore like that was the one thing that I was expecting to get, and it just never happened. Like the whole emergence thing, I was like, oh my God, there's a giant being. You're telling me there's a giant being feeding off a planet this is not going to be Galactus.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Especially since we've already confirmed that John Watts is going to be doing the Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
So
because they're not shying away from the original Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, where Galactus is a giant shadow entity. Yeah, a cloud. They actually went full on, gigantic planet-eating beings with what's his name?
Aramesh or something.
Aramesh, yes, yeah, with like the godlike being that created all of life in the Marvel universe. And the story lost me very early on, to be quite honest. I was trying to keep up. There's a lot of bouncing back and forth with timelines and
there's definitely a lot of religious undertones,
and landscapes and stuff. And I understand it because they're Eternals, but all it did was feel like this movie dragged on for eternity. A lot of the acting was just very, not to knock DC because I love DC, but it did feel like if people complained about the Snyder cut, there better be no good reviews for this movie. I swear to God, because the colors are so unsaturated and dull.
CGI is a little shoddy.
CGI is trash, especially for a Marvel movie.
Very expensive Marvel film, yeah.
And the characters are all just boring. They're all boring. There's a few characters that stand out, and some of the Marvel comedy does work because usually we hate when they just over-inject it. But
shoehorn in so much comedy.
Honestly, the movie picked up for me. Probably my favorite scene, unfortunately, is when Kingo's character was in Bollywood. Yeah, Bollywood. That was funny. Him and the human director, great dynamic.
Such good stuff. Great humor. Very, very aware, self-aware.
Forget Chloe Zhao's cut. I want that director's cut. I want the VHS, the 3 cameras you got in the backpack. Give me that cut.
All of the film was destroyed.
Yeah.
And he kept pulling out more cameras. I would love to see that. He's like, we need an action sequence.
Yeah.
That was great. The one problem I did have with that is that towards the end of this film, there's obviously this giant twist with IKARIS and the Eternals. They had to make a choice about saving Earth or allowing their purpose as Eternals to let these Celestials be born. And there's one point where Kingo basically says oh, I'm with IKARIS. I'm not gonna fight our basically our motive of life. And his boy is standing there who's been loyal, thick and thin.
A human being, yeah.
And he's just I'm gonna let him die. And he didn't even confront him about that, Sir Kingo or whatever.
And he was mad grateful. He's like, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, he's like,
I know I'm going to die.
But thank you for this opportunity.
Guy was great. I would love to see more of him in the MCU, to be quite honest.
Although the movie didn't work for me overall, there was some standout moments with cast and the family aspect of it. The dynamic of that really worked for me, especially the scene where they're all eating when they meet up with Gilgamesh.
Yeah, that was good.
And Thena, they're eating the spit beer, and then Sprite makes him into wearing a baby onesie and stuff like that is really funny. And the Marvel humor that we see throughout these movies, I really felt was organic in this film, which because a lot of times it could be shoehorned and forced, and I can't stand that. But this movie, I was generally laughing, generally felt natural. It did feel like they were this family that was together for 7,000 years, they said.
Yeah, long time.
And they went their separate ways to pursue their own things and came back. So that was all interesting stuff, very high concept sci-fi stuff.
I understood that they were Eternals. The thing that annoyed me was there was a lot that wasn't explained in this movie that I was having a hard time keeping up with, and yet there was so much that was explained in this movie. That was so much exposition. When one thing happened to one character, they had to say it to the other 10 characters. So you were seeing things explained twice, and it was just oh my God. It was a little frustrating.
The things that really intrigued me in this movie was the actual talking scenes, the slow stuff, that the concept stuff, right? Like who they are, what their purpose is,
right, yeah.
Celestials, Eternals, Deviants, different things like that. Even a lot of the exposition stuff, I was enjoying because I did genuinely want to know more about them, considering that I went into this, even before we went into the theater, I said, I'm excited for this film because I don't have a bias towards it. I have no prior knowledge to it, so I'm just expecting to be delighted. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
Right.
There was a lot of action early on, and I was just I'm not really feeling the action too much because it's not advancing the story. And also, it felt very familiar. It felt very X-Men, Justice League, right, yeah. Like IKARIS, for example, is a blend of Cyclops from the X-Men and Superman from the Justice League. So it's I was all right, we've seen this before. There was a character that runs fast. It's the Flash. Yeah,
I was that's the Flash.
Even you were oh, so it's an inside-out Justice League. It felt very generic to me. Even the Deviants, a Jack Kirby creation, I wanted to see go bonkers with the character design of these things. Instead, they give a very generic, almost like Michael Bay Transformers character design.
Yes.
And at some point, one of the Deviants turns into a Ninja Turtle. So it's
The worst CGI I've ever seen.
It really just pissed me off. I was like, I'm not. And then on top of that, I had no idea what the character motives were for the deviants because they wanted to. They felt jaded, slighted because
they were just getting killed.
They were getting killed because of the Celestials and the Eternals. But then they start fighting the Eternals. But when they want to go after the Celestials, the first 2/3 of this movie, although I enjoyed this movie more than you did, I was at least buying into the characters, the lore. And then the third act of this film just completely falls off the rails and goes crazy and loses me completely. And that's when the people in front of us are like, what is happening?
Everyone's just scratching their heads.
If we can't understand it as comic nerds, a general audience goer is definitely not going to understand what's happening.
Exactly, yeah. Halfway through this movie, I was like, who is the villain of this movie? I know that's the thing is like I was a little worried because there were so many characters on the poster. I was like, yikes. I was like, that's going to be a hell of a job for the writer's room and everything else and the runtime. How do you fit all that in a movie? And it works in something like Civil War, Avengers, because you've already established these characters in their previous solo films as the whole DC, debacle of why they failed. We have never seen these characters before. We don't even know them from the comic books, really. So it's like, how are you going to introduce 10 brand new characters? You have
one shot.
10 brand new characters. They did the whole thing, the Deviants. I was like, okay. But if we were going to just see freaking mindless CGI, like you said, Michael Bay villains for 2.5 hours, I was like, I'm out, dude. I was like, I'm out. That is not at all a stake. I know they're like eating intelligent life and everything like that. But what I was more concerned about was the Celestials. I wanted to see more of that realm. Yes, absolutely. And there was a lot of like biblical metaphors and mythology that I was like interested in. But then there's that twist with IKARIS that he's like hell-bent on his faith, towards the Celestials as opposed to like saving mankind. And there's a whole twist of like, there is no Olympia. They're like robots that are just manufactured like in space. Movie lost me very, very quickly. It was like less is more. This one's got too much going on, too much to explain, too many characters.
Very bloated, yeah.
Very bloated. I actually want to see more of like MCU connections. I was like, there's so much unfamiliar here that I want to hear more about. Yeah, like why did they not get involved or this and that, and I wanted to see more references to like something to hold on to, be like, okay, that's cool how they're going to tie in here and there. And speaking of Shang-Chi, I think there was like a rumor or a connection in the post-credit scene to the Eternals, like there was a homing beacon in the 10 rings, and Phastos, the technology guy, like I was wondering if he created them at some point earlier on in history, so I wanted to see like how that tied in. Even the end credit scenes, like I know it was a Black Knight character because halfway through the movie,
Black Knight, Blade,
Blade's voice is at the end.
And even like, Harry Styles.
So when they said Starfox, it was like the Nintendo character. I was like, that's all I was expecting.
And you got, I believe it was Patton Oswalt voicing the character Pip. He's like basically a leprechaun that's like drinking constantly. But like the CGI on him was so bad. And then like you see Harry Styles walk in. It's like, okay, so Thanos, the most badass being in existence, and then his brother is from One Direction.
He walks in, he's like, tastes like strawberry on a summer evening.
One thing consistent about this film, and I think we all can agree, is that Angelina Jolie is a bad woman. She is like a fine wine. She's getting better looking with age. Yeah. There was one scene where she got like handcuffed by the deviant. I was just like, I was like, and then like, even go back to as a kid, like it was Lara Croft Tomb Raider 2001, that poster, that a day that will live in infamy. So she was well worth the price of admission for me.
Her character had not much to do, and even like the A-list actors, we'll call them, Salma Hayek, the costume designer had a fun time keeping those bad boys in there. But like the women, the female leads, like Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie, I felt like they had such little to do. And then the real like lead female, Circe, she was so weak to me. She was so like sideline. I don't know what this movie was trying to accomplish. And I did like Phastos. My favorite characters, I have to say, I did like a lot of the characters, but Phastos is very likable. And I really liked Kingo, obviously. The humor is great. Druig was very cool. The dude who like mind controlled everyone.
Pretty badass.
I thought he was gonna be like the villain halfway through. How he was like, I'm done with everything, and he's controlling everyone like back in Mesopotamia or whatever.
I thought either Druig or Athena were gonna be the villains because she kept kind of getting like
the mad
like
weary
demon possessed or something like that. Another standout to me was Gilgamesh. BD Wong was amazing in this film.
Wong 2.0. Yeah. Dude looks exactly like him.
I was like, did he? Is that the same guy?
I'm actually a little pissed off that we're not getting more of Gilgamesh. He was one of
Gilgamesh
my
was
favorite characters.
Excellent in this
Yeah,
movie.
he was good.
And I want to taste his pie. I want to try his pie.
The blueberry
I'm a little
pie.
upset that he dropped it in like the Mecca.
Gilgamesh, dude.
Yeah. When he was dressed as a baby, that was definitely a standout scene. But he was great. I even like Sprite. I understood her whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, when she gets hit in the head with a rock, oh my god, so funny.
Halfway through this movie, I wish that I got hit in the head with that rock. Let me forget all of
She
this.
takes Icarus aside because she's thirsty for him.
Yeah.
And he, which by the way, like, did he not look like the Winter Soldier to you?
He's knockoff Sebastian Stan.
I was like, yeah, he looks like you said, like the knockoff product of Henry Cavill and Sebastian
He's
Stan.
Dublin Sebastian Stan.
Yeah,
He's like,
and halfway through, was
seriously?
he always Irish throughout the movie? Because like 2/3 of the way in, I was like, has he been using this Irish accent the whole time?
honestly, too, even like the love triangle, whatever the hell was going on between Circe, Icarus, and I
Sprite.
forget his name.
Sprite
I guess
or Jon Snow,
the freaking
the human.
Love Quattro,
Yeah, Black Knight.
Dane,
Black Knight,
Black
yeah.
Knight, whatever his name was.
Fans of Jon Snow that went to go see this film are going to be very disappointed because he's in it for about 3 minutes.
Like, I mean, he's gonna be cool as Black Knight. Like, the character looks cool, so I'm intrigued to see what they do with him. There's a lot that I am intrigued about, but I'm just like, as of right now, it could be different tomorrow, but as of right now, I want to forget this movie ever existed. It's almost like the Inhumans. Like, halfway through this movie, I was like, I can't believe they put this out,
Which is so sad.
and we're trying to accept this. Like, and Kevin Feige hyped it up.
All
and
Jack
everything
Kirby
else.
stuff, too,
Jack
that's
Kirby's
just getting
and I just felt like, because
crapped on,
Inhumans, you remember Inhumans? How it was supposed to be a
course.
movie.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
on the slated list. For whatever reason, it went to TV, did not do well, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all
Yep,
that.
yep.
And it was just like a forgotten thing of the MCU. I wish this happened with this movie because I have no interest in seeing any of this.
At the end of the day, it just felt very disconnected from the MCU, and it felt like, where are the Avengers at this point? You know, like,
Yeah.
are they not noticing that there's earthquakes globally, and that this a giant celestial being is being born out of our planet?
Yeah.
So things like that like bothered me.
Phase 4 so far has been pretty lackluster. All I really want, we're so close with December. The theater was packed. So grateful to see that. Just give us Spider-Man No Way Home. Give us Garfield. Give us Maguire. Give us Holland. Throw it all in. Morbius, honestly, the trailer, that looks like a very good movie. So I'm pretty excited for that. But final grade for this movie, what would you give it? You don't even want to know my score.
I have no idea what you're probably gonna give it like a 1. It's ambitious enough for me to want to give it more, but honestly, at the end of the day, I'm giving this a 5.
Wow, very generous. I'm going really low on this one. 1.5 because it's brutal. I would rather watch Fant Four Stick. I would rather watch Spider-Man 3.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah.
I would rather watch the Venom franchise. This movie, I will never see it again. You couldn't pay me to watch it again.
I'm definitely not gonna watch this.
Never seen it again. Again, like you said, optimistic, and I'm still open about what this set up for the future of the MCU. But as of right now, I do not want to see anything of this movie after our review here.
Yeah, I'd like to forget it. The only thing that I will consider is buying the Jack Kirby omnibus of the Eternals, because guys, do yourself a favor, go study. He's the master of comic book art, the king. No one else is going to be called the king for eternity because he is the master of comic books.
What did you guys think about the Eternals? Let us know in the comments below. Anyways, that about wraps up today's episode of Twin Talk. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment below to join the discussion, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you next time. Peace!